Alright, guys, welcome to another episode, or I should say, Chapter 2 review of Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. First, if you haven't, I need you guys to subscribe, hit the like button, and share. It really helps grow the channel. As I stated many times, and I'll keep on stating. So today's Chapter 2, it's called Desire. And it starts off with a story of once again, it continues with the story of Edward C. Barnes. He explains that he didn't have the best presence, and when he approached Mr. Edison about wanting to be an associate with him, Mr. Edison, he still gave him a chance because he saw that he had a burning desire, which is the whole theme of this chapter. So, a burning desire is not a wish or hope. The burning desire, it's a series of 6 steps, which I'll explain, and you know, there's a definite purpose for achieving a goal. So Barn had his goal, and he was content, approaching Mr. Edison and starting from the bottom, as long as he knew that it would lead to an opportunity, which eventually it did. Before he got to show Mr. Edison, what he was worth, what he wanted to do. The first thing he did was he burned all his bridges. He made no excuse, didn't want to look back, gave everything up. He sold everything so that he could be in this place. How many of us are willing to do that? But only with burning desire will we only be able to achieve our goals. You need to cut all sources of retreat. During the Great Chicago Fire, what's his name? Marshall Field, he said, on that spot, I will build the greatest store, no matter how many times it burns down. Now imagine, this is just right after the Great Fires of Chicago, and he was so determined to have his store, his department store, right there in the middle of Chicago, where it burned down before, and he was like, hey, let's build it again. And for many years, even after his death, that store remained there. Later on, like I believe in 2005, Macy's purchased it, but that's not something else. But still, his determination, even after his death, almost 100 years after his death, that company was still around. That tells you how good the quality of the store, the service, which is really important. That's the things he focused on. That's what he strived for, trying to make everything better. Method by which riches can be translated into its physical equivalent are: 1. Fix the exact amount of money you desire. It's not enough to say, hey, I want to be a millionaire or billionaire. You have to make an exact amount. This will be explained later on, but there's a psychological reasoning for it. You have to have a fixed amount. So make sure when you're coming up with that number that what it is exactly you want, how much it is exactly you want. Number 2, determine what you are willing to give, what you're willing to sacrifice. There's nothing for something. Or did I say that right? You can't get something for nothing, is what I meant to say. My bad, guys. And number 3, establish a definite date for acquiring the money. Once again, this goes to having a fixed mindset, and it will be discussed further on. Number 4, create a definite plan and begin at once, whether ready or not, and put it into action. This is very important, very, very important. A lot of us have this thing in our head where we're like, oh, I'm gonna get started, as soon as I get this ready, as soon as I get this or that. I remember when I was starting my podcast, I was like, man, I need to order, certain things. And it still took me a month after that to start. So just get on it. Start. It doesn't have to be perfect. You'll work on it along the way, and people will understand. Number 5, write out a clear and concise statement of the amount of money you intend to acquire. Name the timeline for acquisition. State what you intend to give in return for the money, and describe clearly the plan through which you intend to accumulate it. So number 5 is pretty much a review of all those four things summed up into one sentence. Number 6, read your written statement twice daily, once in the morning and once before going to sleep. See, what you're doing is you're programming your brain to start believing, to start seeing, and picturing. You get this money conscience. So our brains get easily distracted, and if you have it written down, you can constantly remind yourself once in the morning when you wake up and before you go to sleep. So you're always motivated. You're always thinking about, hey, I need to get this goal done. This is what I need to do. This is my task for the day, and you can build up around it, and and just flesh it out. Work on your idea or your goal to attain whatever it is. These principles, they were made by Andrew Carnegie, who, as you may know, was the richest man in the world at the time. He started from very humble beginnings. I think he only had like $1.20, and he was working at a steel mill. And eventually, after working through a steel mill, observing and whatnot, he ended up becoming the world's richest man with steel. Remember that this book was written during the Great Depression, which is, as it says, the Greatest Depression, the worst economic crisis in the history of the United States so far. And you might be able to relate, with the current times. And I personally believe that there is an economic crisis coming soon. It's not to say that I'm pessimistic. On the contrary, that is the best time to make money. There's a lot of opportunities available, and if you study right, if you make the right moves, you surround yourself with the right people, you will definitely make money. You will reap the benefits of that economic crisis. Let's see. Oh, also, I guess really important. You need to learn that there will be failures along the way, and lots of failures. But it's okay. It's better to get those failures right now, out of the way, rather than starting with someone else. Both of you starting at the same time, and both failing at the same time, right? It's better to have gone through all your failures, and when that person's barely starting and barely going through his failures, you'll be way ahead. You'll be way ahead of other people. So just start. It's really important that you guys get started. Edison, he dreamed of this lamp, for way before he even created it, and he failed with his experiments. He failed 10,000 times, before eventually he got it. If you have definiteness of purpose with a burning desire, you will make your dreams come true. And you gotta have an open mind. You can't let nobody influence you. They're gonna scorn you. You'll be made fun of. I have plenty of people criticize, my channel, or trying to get this started, trying to improve. And it's not just from strangers. Most of the criticism will come from the people from friends, from family. I remember when I started the podcast, my nieces, they said, they're like, what was it? They said, it hurt, but I used that as motivation. It was, oh, Carlos, you're not famous. Why are you starting a podcast? Why are you doing that? Like, you're nobody. Pretty much, you're nobody. And little by little, I've been growing my channel, and like I said, that's not gonna stop me. And eventually, I will be number one, because that's where my goal is, and hopefully, you guys help me get there. But yeah, I mean, people will always bag on you and just make it difficult for you. But you just gotta keep on pushing through, be tough-minded, and don't take things personal. Like, if it can serve you as fuel, use it as fuel. If it's gonna be something negative, just cut it off. You feel like you can't handle it, just cut it off. There's no need having it in your life. In Mr. Hill's book, he tells a story about a man named Marconi. He's the man who invented the long distance radio transmission. And funny enough, he was put in in a psychiatric hospital by his friends and his family. They thought that he went crazy when he told them that he could send when he could send messages through the air without wires. And like, it's pretty crazy, right? Like, pretty wild, but he did it. Um, who else? Helen Keller. You know, she was born blind, deaf, and mute, and still, even with all those disabilities, all that handicap, she still pushed through, and she's known, all over the world. She's written in history, and it's all due to her ability, to be like, I want to somehow communicate with others, and she didn't accept, failure. She didn't accept her disabilities as a handicap. Rather, she found another way to push through. Remember, no more effort is required to aim high in life, to demand abundance and prosperity than is required to accept misery and poverty. A great poet said this, and I love it. I bargained with life for a penny, and life would pay no more. However, I begged that evening when I counted my scanty store, for life is just employer. He gives you what you ask, but once you accept the wages, you must bear the task. Worked for a menial's hire, only to learn, dismayed, that any wage I had asked, life would have paid. So it goes once again, you're only limited to your own beliefs, to what's on your mind. If you want something big, you will receive it. If you want something small, that's what you will get. So think big, guys. Now you may say Mr. Hill was lucky. However, he tells his story, which will blow your mind, completely blow your mind. His son was born without ears, and it was believed that his son would be deaf. Napoleon, being who he is, he couldn't accept this, and he made it his life goal that his son would be able to hear and just be like a normal kid, just like the others. And one day he was listening to his Victrola record player, and his son climbed to the edge of the case, and the boy, he got filled with ecstasy. He could hear. He was hearing music, and this was a big surprise to Napoleon, that his son was able to hear. Later, it was through time, it was discovered that apparently you can hear through the principle of bone conduction of sound. But this was early 1900s, so that technology wasn't as advanced, and things didn't get around the way they do now. Like, you couldn't just Google it, so that type of information, you had to seek it out. It wasn't just gonna come out to you. But yeah, nonetheless. So as soon as Mr. Hill discovered his son could listen, he put his lips, on the base of his head, in the mastoid bone, and he started to speak to him. And the boy could hear very little, but I mean, that was just the start. That was a little spark that Mr. Hill needed, to translate, to transfer his desire onto the boy himself. Because it's one thing for you to believe in someone else, but that person needs to believe in themselves as well. And that's what Mr. Hill did. He told his son, you're gonna hear, you're gonna be able to have a conversation with others, and eventually he did get there. His affliction was not a liability, but an asset. The child wanted to sell newspapers, and because of the parents, they first said no, and Napoleon's son, he snuck out through the window, and eventually went to go sell newspapers. And using his affliction, he used it to his advantage. People, they may have felt pity, so they were willing to buy from him rather than someone else. And they saw that this little kid, he was willing to work. In school, he also used his affliction to his advantage. The teachers would give him more attention, and obviously, the more attention you get, the more you learn. So he was able to convert these handicaps, into stepping stones, and he was able to, climb towards success. But he didn't allow these obstacles, like he didn't use them as alibis. Rather, he converted them into something in his favor. Mr. Hill, he was very adamant about his son being able to hear. That he went to so far as to not allowing him to go to school for the deaf, or to even learn sign language. And he went through his son went through his whole life from as a kid to high school with this what would you say, disability. But eventually he went to college, and he got his hands on a device. And he had used other devices before, but he wasn't convinced. He thought that they weren't gonna work, but still he gave it a chance. And lo and behold, he was overjoyed. And the first thing he did, he called his mom, and he heard her voice perfectly. He was able to hear the radio. He was able to go to class and hear the teacher without the teacher having to yell. Like, he could just have a normal conversation. Like, imagine how great that must have felt. So, with all this joy, all this excitement, Blair, which is Napoleon Hill's son, he sent a letter to the manufacturer of the device, and eventually they reached out back to him, and they gave him a tour of the whole manufacturing plant. And while he was taking the tour, an idea came to his head. He's like, that he wanted to be pretty much an ambassador. He wanted to become an associate for the manufacturer, and he felt that by telling his story, he could help the company, help other children who have a disability with hearing, and also provide the company to make money, and use that as himself to make money as well, right? And this was crazy, because the doctor did an X-ray, and he had no hole. He had no, like I said, he was born without ears, but not apart from not having ears, he had no hole. So it's like, how was he able to get this sound? But I guess it was Mr. Hill's belief, his burning desire, that somehow allowed Blair to hear. Uh, th- Burning desire is such an interesting topic. He has one more story, Mr. Hill, and he talks about his business associate. I guess he lost a lot of weight. He was really sick, and he was gonna go in for surgery. And the doctor said, this is it. Like, his chances of survival are slim to none. So he goes into the surgery room, but like, while his associate is being rolled in, he said, "I'm gonna pull through, chief." And he gets out of surgery. The doctor comes out, talks to Napoleon Hill, and says, he should be dead. Like, this is a miracle. Like, the only thing that got him was his desire, or his will to live. And imagine, like, how amazing is that? Like, that this doesn't just apply to business. These principles, it applies to all of our life, and could even save our life, possibly, potentially. And that's really amazing. That's something that we all should keep in our mind. If we have that desire, that fight, as long as we don't give up, we can accomplish anything. We can survive. I mean, look how the things that humans have gone through. I mean, I know somebody who got in a car crash, and his whole, like, I want to say, right here, all this got caved in, literally caved in. And, he functions as a normal human being. And I met this person, like, I met him in person. So it's really amazing, really remarkable what humans can go through, and we can push back as long as we don't quit. Yeah, man, we can do anything. And yeah, that's today's chapter. Hope you guys enjoy it. Don't forget that burning desire, man. Don't give up. All right, guys. Thank you. Hope you enjoy. Bye.